The Olympic Stadium in Berlin, built under the Nazi regime and completed in 1936. The Olympic Games took place here under the swastika. After the Games were opened by Adolf Hitler under the slogan "I call for the youth of the world, sportsmen and women fought for medals." Next to the silent witness of German history, sport still takes place daily. On many soccer grounds around the stadium, people come together to let the ball roll. Currently, the stadium is home of the second league club Hertha BSC. The club also has its training grounds nearby.
With the end of World War II, the Third Reich ends as well, but the inhuman ideology never disappeared completely. In sports overall, but especially in soccer, there are repeated cases of discrimination, racism, and anti-Semitism. Here in this video, fans of the National League team Cottbus are chanting the anti-Semitic Nazi phrase, "Work sets you free." In Germany, neo-Nazis and hooligans are actively involved in the soccer scene. According to the German Football Association, there are approximately 5,600 incidents at German soccer grounds in the 2021 season, of which around 40% were cases of discrimination. Right-wing extremism in soccer is a global problem. Charlotte E. Howell from Boston University knows that right-wing fan groups are networking worldwide.
There's a long history of right-wing supporters groups with hooliganism in the UK, aligning with some rise of neo-Nazism. And Italy, even today, is one of the worst places for racism, even outside of specific alt-right supporters groups. But in the US, because we don't have this long history of the sport, it gets pulled into the already established culture wars.
In preparation for the World Cup, a little over 1,000 soccer fields like these were built across the nation to encourage groups of people from all backgrounds to get involved in playing together. The street art above this field tells everyone to risk everything for their goals. Although sports are meant to bring people together, discrimination in soccer happens daily, says Joseph Wilson of the Berlin Football Association.
Assuming that racism, anti-Semitism, sexism exists in society, it also exists in football.
Racist incidents occur primarily where there is an exaggerated sense of nationalism. Often, racism occurs simultaneously with sexism.
I'd say male players tend to look at it as a male sport, where male values are considered to be good.
To effectively combat discrimination, it must be addressed. Wilson says opportunities must be created for fans, players, and referees to report cases of discrimination.
So we introduced a button on our website. We made it obligatory for referees to report discrimination and then write an additional report on what happened.
For others, the connecting power of soccer plays an important role.
Through the
Berlin Friends Breakfast, we supported clubs by saying, "Come together again." We as a football association paid for the breakfast, a barbecue or making pasta. The idea was to say, let's stay for some more time. Invite your team and your opponent to stay a little longer after the game and we will pay for the food. It was not a big effort at all. We gladly did it. We contributed some euros, they went to the supermarket and bought the stuff. Then they brought a table, sat down together and got to know each other. That was a very important step forward for us to reunite the people.
Gerd Liesegang from the NOFV wishes for soccer to also be a place for people to get to know each other. However, the expectations of soccer are too high.
The expectation is that football will solve everything. But in my opinion, other people in our country are asked to do something more. Let it be the schools, the families. But when something happens, football is always the first to be asked. What are you doing about it? Others are looked over and not taken into account, but they always expect answers from us, or solutions somewhere, but we don't have them.
The Northeast Soccer Association will launch a major campaign together with the German Soccer Association and the Commissioner for Integration and Migration of the Bundestag next year. The goal is to teach knowledge about how to handle and prevent discrimination. The sport is seen as being threatened by right-wing ideologies. the governing coalition has written down the elaboration of a federal program against right-wing extremism and misanthropy in sport, intended to effectively combat all forms of group-based misanthropy.
Das fängt an beim Bereich der Wissenschaft und Forschung, wo es
It begins within the field of science, with research that also delivers insights for us. Then, of course, we are also focusing on the organized sport, including the associations and the clubs with their competitions. The athletes also play a role. According to the FDP politician Philipp Hartewig, the federal program also aims to raise awareness of discrimination in sports clubs. So, there are already many efforts to counter right-wing extremism and discrimination in sports. However, the problem is still big. Associations, politicians and civil society must continue to combat the problem. This sign says, football is future, but with hate and exclusion, it is not the future for everyone.